looking after all the thermal power stations. He is a mechanical engineer having 34 years of industry experience in the field of operation and maintenance of thermal power plants. After an initial stint of 2 years in the maintenance of planning of Usha Martin Industries Limited, he joined the renowned Power Utilities CSC Limited and has been working there for the last 32 years. His vast experience include plant, operations and management, project handling, driving sustainability and performance improvement initiative. He was also plant head of the Bajbaj generation station for several years before he moved to Generation Corporate 2 years ago. We feel privileged to have a man with such experience among us today. A very warm welcome, sir.
Now we move on to Mr. Saket Shah, who is the head of investor relations and ESG reporting at RPSG Group. Sir is a management graduate from Wellington Institute of Management, Mumbai, and has an experience of more than 22 years in corporate finance, investor relations, ESG reporting, fundraising, M&A, fixed income, and project finance. He brings rich experience from different sectors as Tower Capital and Securities, Citigroup, and Aditya Birla Group. Prior to RPSG Group, he was leading investor relations and ESG reporting from Gasam Industries, the flagship company of Aditya Birla Group. Thank you for being among us today, sir. We look forward to have your opinions on the motion for the day.
Thank you.
Now we would like to have Mr. Debashish Mukhopadhyay with a background in economics, industrial relations, and personal management. Sir works as a deputy general manager, personal and administration in Birla Jute Mills, Birlapur, South 24 Pargana. This unit is actually more than a century old unit and is the first Indian mill from where Birla started their business in 1919. Sir started his career in jute industry itself in West Bengal and has an experience of 28 years in different HR positions. He has worked in different companies but has most of his experience in the jute industry. Thank you for taking time out for us, sir. We look forward for hearing your thoughts on our topic for the day.
Thank you.
Next up, we'd like to introduce Mr. Murlidhar Golapalli, who is currently working as EHS Assistant Manager and has been associated with Larsen & Turbo Construction for nearly 7 years. At present, he is under the corporate role of Minerals and Metals SBG, coordinating with various national and international project sites and factories. Sir is basically a civil engineer who has done his master's in environmental engineering from IIT Guwahati. He is also a certified ISO 14001 lead auditor. Sir has participated and presented technical papers in sustainability and environmental management at construction sites in various national and international conferences. It's a pleasure to have you among us today, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next up, we have Dr. Rajneesh Kumar, is a director at Amrest and has done his doctorate in environment and sustainability from Central University, USA. Masters in environmental management and post completing mechanical engineering from IIT with over 16 years of experience in sustainability frameworks and disclosure. He has a strong expertise in ESG-based framework. He has a sound expertise in audit and conversion, workplace health and safety management, emergency response and preparedness, plan and trend analysis, planning of objectives and targets based on specific analysis, ESG-based SOPs preparation, ESG audit, training on ESG-related matters, and ESG report preparation. We are honored to have you among us today.
Lastly, we'd like to introduce our moderator for the day, Dr. Soni Agarwal, who's also the mentor of the club Humanhour. Ma'am holds a doctorate in management from IIT Kharagpur. She specializes in HR and has rich industry academia experience. Prior to joining academics, she had worked with FMCG, ITES companies on strategy and HR. Her areas of research interest are ESG, sustainability, green human resource management, employee engagement, performance management, training, and industrial relations. She is a corporate trainer and has trained senior and mid-level executives in the area of HR analytics, motivation for higher performance, negotiation, conflict management skills, and performance management. Ma'am has also published research papers and reviewed a number of books and research papers. She has authored a book named Green HRM, Climate Conscious Route to Triple Bottom Line. We don't think there could be a better moderator for the day. Thank you for taking on the time for doing this, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Ria and Simran, for supporting and introducing and managing and coming up with the thought process that we can have the panel discussion on the very important topic, how we can reduce the carbon footprint, because we all know. So this is a global challenge and we all have to come forward in terms of, contributing a bit. And this is the occasion we are having a galaxy of panelists, means each one of our panelists is in the area, they are the leaders and they are putting a lot of efforts towards achieving the goals that are net zero, sustainability and sustainable development. And that is because we all know that the kind of a climate change we see nowadays, it is actually overwhelming. And already we have started realizing the impacts that is resulting in natural calamities, which are, some are natural that happens occasionally on a period of time, but many because of our human made activities. We all see nowadays what is happening in Himachal, or what had happened in terms of deep cracks like in Joshimath, Rudraprayag, or in Garhwal district, records rains, or maybe the hottest March, or in 2020 during Amphan in West Bengal and Orissa. And all these topics and discussions are the very much need of our, we are already late. And if we are not doing a bit now, the situation is going to be alarming. So the awareness, the conviction and immediate action is a need of the hour. And that is why we all are here to understand what is all about this we are talking, this carbon footprint, how it is created. Is this only the manufacturing organization are the culprit, or we all are contributing a bit towards this we call these carbon footprints, or how these carbon footprints are generated? Is this because of moving goods, or maybe building infrastructure or structures or homes, or maybe producing food or travel? So what all are there that are going to add this, we call it greenhouse gas emissions? So how these gases behave, how these are produced, what all components are there? Is that the CO2 is the only culprit, or other gases like methane, nitrous oxide, are all creating or contributing towards greenhouse gas emission? So why this greenhouse gas emission is so much is talked about? This is because this GHG trap heat in the atmosphere, and that is the cause of rising the average temperature of the earth. Presently, we see it is 1.1 degree Celsius. It can go up to 4 degree Celsius in the near future. And if it is going to happen like that, if we are failing to tackle the causes of climate change that we are seeing, maybe because of fossil fuel, coal, oil, gas, or there are many other reasons that are also contributing. We all know that, or we can blame others. We can say China is the factory of the world, and that is why they are one of the most GHG gas emitters, and they are developed country as well. They should take more effort. Why we? Or maybe the United States, which is also one of the major source of GHG, and the reason is not the factory, but more on transportation and household energy. So if we say we India, we are very happy that our per capita. So here we were talking about China and United States, but we are not comparing in the way we are comparing now, when we feel happy that we are producing very less per capita carbon emission. But it is per capita, and if we are combining each one of us, which is one of the largest population in the world, so then it is going very high. So we have to compare apple to apple, and then we will see how much we are contributing towards this GHG, and how these GHG or carbon footprints are harming us. So in terms of rising the temperature, we had seen the summer or monsoons are becoming very unpredictable. We had already seen the March, the kind of a weather we had seen, or maybe floods in Delhi. And if, as we are saying, predicting 4 degrees centigrade warming, so maybe extremely wet monsoons, or maybe where we are habitated near the sea, so the rising sea levels or the natural calamities which were occurring in 100 years, now they may occur even after 10 years or so. Or the heating up can go twice as fast as it was earlier. So our Arctic Ocean can go entirely ice free. So means the sea levels are rising and droughts in India, fires in the jungles. So this is an alarming situation already. And we all individuals and corporates have to take steps towards reducing these carbon footprints. And the organizations can initiate, but at the same time, we individuals or the individuals as defined by employees, we are also having the responsibility. But how we can go ahead towards the objective until and unless we do not know about this. So now today we are going to discuss with each one of the panelists and their viewpoints, their initiatives and their challenges in terms of achieving the goal. Is this that we can say it is a manufacturing organization only is having the largest emitter and they are only having this goal? We cannot say like that. So here from each panelist, we would like to hear the listen, how they are helping towards achieving the goal. First of all, if I can call Dr. Tapash Kumar Gupta to share his thought as he is representing policy. And here he is also heading Green Tribunal. He is having a lot of experience in that area. So how the policies are there or how industry can look forward or how the policy side we are offering the partnership towards achieving the goal. So with these questions, if we can hear Dr. Tapash Kumar from his thought process, his guidance on the same. Dr. Tapash, over to you.
Good morning, madam.
Very good.
Good morning to all my fellow panelists, my dear students, friends, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the West Bengal Pollution Control Board and the Government of West Bengal Department of Environment, and on my personal behalf, I would like to communicate my gratitude to Madam Agarwal, IMI, for organizing this kind of discussion platform, particularly among the young students, those who will take this line what we are doing every day. Basically, the basic themes you have already explained. Now, as I am working in the Pollution Control Board for more than 40 years, so I have witnessed a lot of things. So to specifically about this reducing carbon footprint, I can just mention about the present strategy of our country and as well as what we are doing in our state to mitigation or adaptation of this climate change issues. Basically, you all know that India currently is one of the fastest growing economically in the world, and also it home for almost 1/6 of the humanity. And for this development, we look to face a lot of diversified challenge in front of us. And nevertheless, we have taken at the highest level of the government that we'll have to do a lot of things to uh, minimize our this carbon footprint. And as a matter of fact, we have already prepared a plan of action, and Ministry of at the national level, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, they have already articulated the long-term low low greenhouse gas emission development strategy, and also they have submitted an action plan in the short and long term for achieving nationally determined contribution goals by 2030 and the target of net zero emission by 2070. And as our nationally determined contribution goals, it is basically we have 3-4 targets. The first targets will have to meet 50% of India accumulative electric power installation capacity from non-fossil sources by 2030, then reduction of emission intensity of GDP by 45% below 2005 levels by 2030. And the most important thing that we'll have to do a lot of changes in our lifestyle practices. And in our lifestyle practices, when we discuss that what are the things we can undertake, and already it has been classified, it has been described very clearly, that we all know, because today among our panelists, we have good friends from the CSC Bajbaj thermal power stations. We have friends from Birla Jute Mill. As I am in the pollution control board, I I have seen the 0 day from this Bajbaj thermal power station and how it has been established and what was the policy behind it for setting up of such power plant in Bajbaj, and basically to minimize the air emission in the Kolkata metropolitan area. They have done it. So energy savings is one of the most important lifestyle practice. Second is water conservation and its management. Third, the reduction of use of nowadays this use of single-use plastics. Then waste management by way of adopting the 3R principle, that reduction, reuse, and recycle. Then adoption of sustainable food habits, management of electronic waste, that is a major challenge before us. And as a whole, so far as entire waste management policy, we will have to take steps from shifting the traditional linear economy to a circular economy. And as a as when we are moving to a circular economy, basically we are doing whatever activity will be undertaken, it will overall, it will reduce our carbon footprint. I can share you a lot of good examples what we have already taken up in the state of West Bengal. So far as this waste management is concerned, where our Madam Sonia Agarwal is already working with us, that in West Bengal, out of 128 urban local body, we have so far identified 120 legacy dump sites. There we have already started biomining activity. And by doing this biomining activity, we are reducing the methane emission, which is coming up, we used to come up in our atmosphere from this dump site of the solid waste. Similarly, we have taken a lot of steps for water resources management. So these are the steps, I think, if we can really and seriously undertake, and there is no other alternative. And of course, we all know there's another major activity continuously we have to undertake, that is the plantation, social forestry, because afforestation and plantation is a major steps towards mitigation of the carbon footprint, and we'll have to reduce this, otherwise entire state, entire country, and entire world will be in a deep trouble in near future. But I am quite optimistic, and whatever way at the state level, at the national level, we have undertaken the strategy and policy. If we can do in that path, I hope, I am quite sure that we can come over this kind of situation. And with this introduction, I would take going back my thing to Professor Agarwal, and I'll be happy to interact in future. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tapas, and sharing all the initiatives and support and the steps that are being taken towards a circular economy or towards achieving the net zero, and especially the West Bengal people or maybe the Kolkata nearby people staying the dump yard, how we can reduce the methane and all that. Really amazing, all the efforts are taken. And now I would like to call Mr. Snehashri Samadar, who is also having a meeting in a few minutes. So we are little late, sir. So can you please tell us, because Bajwa station, even recently you had facilitated to our student, we had seen the amazing initiatives were taken by you, and being the power plant and so much is done on ground is actually worth appreciating. If you kindly share, means how you could do it and what is the what you are looking forward, I mean, what more is coming up, so that very eagerly we are here to hear you, please. Mr. Snashish, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Agarwal, and good morning to Dr. Banerjee, Dr. Agarwal, Dr. Gupta, and my co-panelists and the students present over here. It's really a privilege to get this opportunity from IMI and share my thoughts. And it's at the same time, it's a difficulty to speak after Dr. Gupta because he is an authority in this field, and he is regarded as a guide for us. I mean, I cannot express our gratitude and our respect, the kind of respect that we have for him. So, I mean, thank you so much. And Dr. Gupta, once again, in this platform, I'm sharing this panel discussion with you. It's a privilege to me. Now, going back to the topic, you see, a little bit of history I'm just telling. In 1983, United Nations tapped former Norwegian Prime Minister Gro Harlem Brundtland to run the new World Commission on Environment and Development. That time it was felt that development cannot go individually. You know, if we go for development, if we go for a lot of technical upliftment, there is an other side of it, flip side of it. So the world needed to find a way to harmonize the ecology with prosperity. Prosperity and ecology should go hand in hand. After 4 years, the Brundtland Commission released its final report, Our Common Future. This Our Common Future talks about environmental sustainability, economic sustainability, and the social sustainability. Now, what are the major issues of this sustainability? Mainly climate change. I mean, the major challenges, the climate change, income inequality, depletion of natural resources, human rights issues, fair working conditions, pollution, racial injustice, gender equality. So all these things are important. Today we are talking about climate change. Now, already Dr. Gupta has given a view, and also Dr. Agarwal's, so with the risk of repetition, I'm telling that in India, which is ranked 4th among the list of countries most affected by the climate change, and that was recognized in 2015. India emits almost 3 gigaton of CO2 equivalent of greenhouse gas each year. So, which is 2.5 ton per person, as Dr. Agarwal has already shared, that it's per capita wise, it's very less. But if we consider the population, it's quite huge. So the temperature rise in the Tibetan plateau are causing Himalayan glaciers to retreat, threatening of the flow rate of the Ganges, Brahmaputra, Yamuna, and other major rivers, causing us a lot of problem, we all know. And the disruptive environmental changes which are happening every year, the thermal wave that we are, or the heat wave we are experiencing each every year. I mean, it's not that it's futuristic. It has started happening. So if we don't take some step today, then probably this world will not be ours, right? And the future generation will not forgive us for that. So what our country has done so far? In short, I can tell you that certain policies have been taken at COP26. India has declared 5-fold strategy, which is known as Panchamantra. What are those? India will get its non-fossil energy capacity to 500 gigawatt by 2030. India will meet 50% of its energy requirements from renewable energy by 2030. India will reduce total projected carbon emission by 1 billion tons from now onwards by 2030. By 2030, India will reduce the carbon intensity of its economy by less than 45%. And by 2070, India will achieve the target of net zero. All these things are extremely difficult. We talk about renewable energy integration. Let me have this opportunity to give you a brief on that. On the ground, it's not so easy. We all know whatever renewable energy is available today, they are basically not very steady. It depends, the supply depends on the weather condition. So until unless you have the backup battery storage, the need of the consumer cannot be met, because consumer needs 24/7 electricity as per their demand. So when the sun is not there, I'll not get electricity. Nobody will accept. So how the integration will take place? If you do it with battery backup, then the cost will go very high. So the policy has been taken that as we integrate the renewable energy, the thermal has to be there and it has to flex its generation according to the demand. That means the demand will go as per the need of the consumer. When the solar or wind will be able to support, then they will be getting the preference and thermal has to back down. When solar and wind will not be there, then thermal has to ramp up. Now, thermal, because we are associated with thermal power plants, they are not designed, originally not designed for so much of flexibilization. But in the coming future, they will undergo huge amount of flexibilization. This flexibilization means not only the deterioration of the asset in the long run, but also the performance efficiency of the power plant will probably get impacted. The moment efficiency gets impacted, the carbon footprint is directly or indirectly is bound to increase. But this transition period, you do not have any other way out until unless you have got a cheaper battery storage technology available. So, coming maybe one or 1.5 decades, we have to go with this, that thermal will exist. Thermal will have its major share, but at the same time, slowly and gradually, the renewable will pick up. Now, coming back to that, in the recent union budget, also a lot of initiatives have been taken. Few I am just mentioning, sharing that provision of 35,000 crore priority capital investment towards the energy transition I was talking about, and the net zero objectives and energy security. Focus on green growth, building on the lifestyle for environment towards Panchamrit and net zero carbon emission by 2070. Then National Green Hydrogen Mission. Green hydrogen technology is the upcoming technology and is being considered as the alternate fuel for future. So National Green Hydrogen Mission has been set up with an outlay of 19.7 thousand crore to facilitate technology and market leadership. Battery storage, I was mentioning, that is also being boosted up. Detailed framework for pumped storage project. That means we will be having some pump storage where when the demand is low, we'll be pumping the water to a height, and when the demand will be high, then that pump storage will be generating hydroelectricity for us. So these kind of initiatives are being taken. Now, from CSC, what we have been doing all these years, from the very beginning, since we are very close to Kolkata, particularly in Bajbaj and in all other power plants, we considered that environment commitment is our first commitment. Since we are in thermal generation business, we burn coal, we produce ash, No denial of fact, but what best we can do for our environment management. So the first thing that we have done, that to reduce our own consumption, that which is known as specific energy consumption. For that, huge lot of initiatives have been taken. Initially, whatever was our specific energy consumption, gradually and slowly, with lot of innovative methods, homegrown methods, we could reduce that consumption to a large extent. Now we are one of the best in specific energy consumption. As far as the water consumption is concerned, our norms, national norms is 3.5, but we are operating near 2.0. Our effluent, not a single drop of water effluent goes out of the plant in Bajbaj. Each and every drop of effluent is being recycled and reused. As far as the emission norms are concerned, we do not consider the statutory limits as our ultimate limit. We try to do whatever low from that statutory limit is possible to do. From the very beginning, we have concentrated on planting trees. Huge number of trees have been planted in each of our generating stations. Bajbaj has got 130,000 trees planted over last 25 years. Same is for Haldia. Recently, we carried out a study, and I'm just sharing that number. Techno University did that study from in our Bajbaj and Haldia plant, which has been validated by Bombay IIT, that in 25 years, these more than 1 lakh of trees have absorbed almost 10,70,000 tons of carbon dioxide from environment. So, which is almost 40,000 tons of CO2 absorption per year. Why I am giving these statistics? This will give you an impetus that what is the benefit of afforestation or planting trees. Recently, we have embarked on another initiative, which is development of Miyawaki forest. Miyawaki forest is a Japanese kind of forest, urban forest, which can be grown in a very small area. Now, in our southern generating station, we have planted 3,500 trees in a very small area of 1,000 square meters. Similar initiatives are being taken at Bajbaj, Haldia, and our Dhariwal plant, where we will be developing the Miyawaki kind of forest. Now, we have developed butterfly garden, we have developed spice garden, we have a compost machine where all our canteen wastes are converted into organic compost and used for the plantation inside. We have gone outside and interacted with the society, made them understand that the importance of plantation, importance of carbon dioxide sequestration. Now, another research work also we have done, which is not, it's still in the research stage, that what is the impact of azolla plantation in a small water body what you have, because azolla absorbs carbon dioxide very fast. Now, there are so many, so I'll not be able to complete that within time, so I'm not going into the details of it. But another thing I would like to say, that it's not only the country, it's not only the state, it's not only the statutory bodies, it's not only the organization. It's ultimately the responsibility of each and every individual. At the individual level, what we can do, we can always stop wastage of electricity. From an electricity company, I'm telling you, please stop wastage of electricity. That will reduce the carbon footprint. Do not keep the light on when you are not there. Do not keep the fan on. I'm giving you another example. Japan, few years back, introduced that all their AC machines should be capped at 27 degrees centigrade, either 27 or 28. I'm forgetting the number. You do not need to run the AC machine at 20 degree or 22 degree. What's the harm if you run it at 27? Body will ultimately adjust. So if we do that, we can save huge lot of energy from running the ACs. Then practice using recycled products like paper. Lot of paper we waste. So there are agencies which come and do this, do the recycling and give you the new product. So you can do that. Stop wasting water. Every drop of water is produced by consumption of electricity. So please stop wasting water. If you can, individual capacity, you can start rainwater harvesting. We are doing it in the company level, but in the individual household level also this can be done. The model schemes are available. Then, of course, plant trees as much as possible. I will say another thing. Ash is a byproduct of producing electricity in our thermal power plant. Each and every kg of ash, that means 100% of ash that we produce, we are utilizing that for cement industry or any other value-added utilization. In the recent times, we got a patent for using bottom ash, which are basically the coarse ash that goes down into the boiler, using that ash in concrete production, replacing sand by 40–50%. Now, natural sand is a scarce commodity. It's costly too. Now, using this bottom ash, we got this patent and the product is really good. We have tested that. We are doing some trial stretch at different states in the PWD national highway roads. We have constructed a road inside our plant using the bottom ash, replacing sand by 40–50%. Now, advantage is that it's also replacing the cement consumption, which is power consuming. It's also replacing reducing the water consumption. So ultimately, it will reduce the carbon footprint. Small initiatives ultimately will, help us to contribute to some extent. That's all from my side. I request all of you once again, try to understand the seriousness of this particular topic and try to contribute whatever possible. We can do a lot of things individually. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So much insightful, rich, clear, lots of data, supported with data, be it how we are going to achieve net zero by 2070, step by step, supporting by data. Then, yes, the challenge, the weather kind of a challenge we are having, that we cannot depend on solar because of not availability of sun all the time. Be it the very innovative practice and already getting the patent on bottom ash and reducing the use of sand, which is a kind of going to be a kind of a scarce commodity, or azolla, planting azolla. Means there are so many things that are there that means if I start elaborating, that will be many. So rather we have limited time and we have to listen other speakers as well. Now, if I can request Mr. Saket Shah, who is actually dealing with the investor relations and also the ESG, the initiative at RPSG level as a whole. And actually, why I am little curious here to bring him on picture, because there is a lot of money is involved. We all say yes, we have to achieve these targets, but on ground we all know how much money is there, means how we are going to manage, or if we have to offset the target, means carbon. So what all are ways? So there are a lot to hear from him as an investor relation, and also relating with the overall topic what we are trying to discuss at an corporate level as a whole. And he's having the experience of working in different industries. So I am sure he is going to bring a huge contribution to the panel discussion by sharing his thoughts. Mr. Saket, we welcome you here, and if you can kindly share your thoughts, and I'm going to share your some of the PPTs.
To the next one.
Okay.
Hi everyone. I think so. It was very nice hearing Snehashi's and the other gentlemen. Thank you, Sony, again for for inviting me. Sorry, I got a bad throat, so you'll have to deal with me for a couple of minutes now. So it's very important to put the context, in terms of numbers, because what has happened in last 20, 30 years, we have to understand it because Sneha, she's also mentioned in terms of the GHG emissions, the top five polluting nations. But the most important part is, let me just give you a little bit of a glimpse of what has happened. So in last 20, 30 years, the industrialization was at the peak, and we have seen that the GDP of China going up 17x, India moving up 7.5x, US doubling GDP. So roughly all the GDPs are in the number of US today is around 22 billion, 22 trillion GDP. China is around the same number, around 17, 18 trillion dollars kind of a number. So what we are saying is, so basically there's a lot of economic expansion which has happened. That's number one. The second part is moving of the manufacturing from the Western world to the Eastern world. So China became the powerhouse. It became the manufacturing base for almost everything. Yeah. The third part is the population explosion. So roughly in 1990, the global population was roughly around 5.1, 5.2 billion people. Now the same population is more than 8 billion people. So you have to feed the stomach of so many people, right? And even you have to manage the logistics, the transportation, the commute. So that's another challenge. So China, if you really think from the absolute number, it's double that of US. So that is very much, last 20 years, this is what the change it has been. The second point I would like to mention is, even if you look at the Brazil and Russia, Brazil, the GHG emissions are high. It's mainly because of the rainforest, that has been changed to the farming land, and the other part is, even there's a lot of industrialization which has happened. And in case of Russia, it has been feeding the oil and gas to the almost, most of the world. So that's why the GHG emissions are high. So it becomes important for us to know that what are the GHG emissions, or what are the gases. So the largest, so in this pie, the carbon dioxide is number one, methane is number two, and N2O is number three. And there are a couple of other gases which are 1 or 2% kind of a number, right? Now let me come to what exactly is GHG, how does the warming happen? So if you really think about it, greenhouse gases are actually essential to keep the earth warm. And GHG gases are so named because they function like a glass in the greenhouse. There's a if you think of a greenhouse, it's a kind of a room, and there are glasses around it. So you can think of that. So that's one part of it. The second part is the role of the carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide, the most of the carbon dioxide emission has happened either in like a volcanic eruptions, or they have been mainly because of human activities, that is deforestation or burning of fuel, and some of these initiatives. Methane, on the other part, is both human and even in terms of the industrialization. But the other part is, maybe if you guys would be aware, cows, they kind of, what should I say? They kind of expel a lot of methane, and there's a new technology which captures this methane. That's the second one. The third one is N2O. N2O, again, this emission is mainly because of the fertilizer, that is the production of fertilizer, which is both organic and inorganic ones. So this is mainly in terms of the gases. So let me now come to what are the key sectors which are emitting. So more than 80% of the GHG emissions come from the power sector, from the manufacturing sector. Mainly we are talking uh, about chemicals, ferrous, steel, aluminum, copper, zinc. So these are the big sectors which are kind of emitting GHG emissions. The the third part is, what is happening is there's a lot of deforestation which is happening, because of which also there's a massive impact. Let me just move to the next slide. In the next slide, mainly I have further decomposed in terms of the power. It's mainly the electricity, because of which the GHG emissions are there. And From the manufacturing, you could see steel, cement, oil and gas, chemicals. These are the larger ones, which are kind of emitting GHG, right? So why the GHG emissions is a problem now? The biggest thing is it's going to impact the demand, it's going to impact the capital allocation, it will impact the cost, and it will impact the jobs. The biggest impact will be the capital allocation, because if you really think about, if you have to move from a thermal power plant to a renewable power plant, or if you have to change the mix, it costs a lot of money, and many corporates, they don't have the balance sheet or the support to really take care of this. Second thing is the jobs displacement. The amount of people who are working in the coal, in the mining, or some of the other sectors, it's massive number we are talking about. So some of this displacement we are going to see, but the but the but in terms of the job creation, yes, the job creation will also be there, and this would be mainly on account of mainly on the technology initiatives, or on the reporting initiatives, or in terms of, let's say, green hydrogen, which is a very big investment which is coming on the western coast of India. So some of these initiatives are equally, you know, we'll see the benefits of them in next maybe half a decade, or by the end of 2030, we should be able to see the positive impact from them. So this is a very important slide from my perspective, because what really happens is, uh, India has taken a commitment to become net zero by 2070. So what it means? What it means is there's a lot of investment which will be, uh, so there's a lot of money which will be invested in these initiatives. And what is the quantum of money we are talking about? We are talking about roughly 10 to 13 trillion dollars. That's a massive amount of money which will be invested. And where will the money be invested? So the money will be invested. A large part of it will happen in logistics. It will happen in the renewable part, where we are moving from 170 gigawatts of renewable to 500 gigawatts. That's a very massive number, and roughly, if I assume 1 megawatt costs roughly $0.9 million, so that's a big number we are talking about. The second part is, how do we finance it? Because see, financing is again going to be a very massive issue, because we are talking of this amount not only important for India, but even we are talking about the US also has to go to the same thing. Europe also has to go through the same thing. But the main distinction is US and Europe, they are far ahead in terms of the transition. So what's India going to do? The biggest thing is India is going to do is going to set up a lot of these captive capacities, either manufacturing of green hydrogen, or manufacturing of PV, which is a one of the polysilicon kind of a chip which will be manufactured over here. So there's a lot of investment which will happen. So what becomes important is the cost of funding. When we are talking about financing a 10 or 13 trillion dollars of investment, then the cost of funding has to be very cheap. That's when something like sustainable financing, or the green bond, or some of these initiatives which are there already in the global markets, but the Indian government has to be more active. So we have already seen the first sustainable bond issuance, roughly close to $1 billion in the month of Jan, by the Indian government, and which was at a very benchmark, which was at very it was cheaper than the normal rate. That's one. Point two is, borrowing money from the green bond is not easy, because what really happens is you are going to compete with the likes of the global companies. That's second. Third part is the cost of funding for a corporate is not cheaper. In case of the Sorry, can you move to the next slide, please? Sorry. Yeah. So the cost of funding is not cheaper. So when we are talking about the cost of funding, we're talking about roughly, let's say, if the corporate cost of borrowing is 10% or 8%, and they think they can borrow at 7.5%, which is not feasible. A green bond doesn't mean it's cheaper. It only means it's in one of the alternative means of financing, or the investor sector is different in case of the green financing. The third part is there's a cost of issuing the bond. So you cannot be issuing a $50 million or $100 million bond, because it's really expensive. So roughly the last one, what I worked, it was a couple of years back, we are looking at $500 million of debt issuance, a US dollar bond issuance. And just to inform you, there's one more kind of bond which is already in vogue. We are talking about something called social bond. So what a social bond is, something some of the South American nations like Peru and Chile, they have issued these social bonds. And what it means is, let's say they want to promote a low housing. So that's where, they issue a international social bond. Yeah. That's it for time being. Sony, if further, if people have questions, we can take up that point of time. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Saket, and shared means not only the explaining what is GHG, what is a percentage, where India stand, we should always say, yeah, we are one of the lowest per capita, but overall picture, if we are saying we are not at a good stage, and the target we had taken by 2070 net zero is not an easy target. And how we are going to go ahead in terms of achieving, how much money is involved, that is again is not easy, but yes, we have to do it, and we have already initiated this in the process, and Mr. Saket had elaborated entirely with giving the numbers and what companies are doing, and especially the social bond. So we always have, means we talk about green bond, social bond, and even recently I had seen the SEBI guideline on social stock exchange. So all these things are coming into the picture, and we all have started realizing, and we have to realize. And yes, this is a very stretched objective or target presently at the condition or the situation we are in, but we have to join hand towards achieving the goal. So there is no other way out that we can have it. So with all these insights and thoughts, if I can move to Mr. Devashish Mukhopadhyay, and he is from jute industry, very labor intensive. We will not say that it is the kind of a polluter we generally think, because it is even taking less water than the rice, if we are saying. Then also the kind of practices, and we were talking with Mr. Devashish, because he said I'm very punctual, and I said 10:45 and he was there at 10:30, and he was sharing the way the initiatives he had taken at Birla Jute and how it is helping. So which industry is considered always a loss making, where the price of the production is higher than the price of sale. So in this kind of a situation, we are taking the efforts towards achieving the sustainability. This is worth learning from him. So over to you, Mr. Devashish Mukhopadhyay, if you can kindly share, means if you can do it, anyone can do it. Yeah, over to you.
Yes, a very good morning to all the participants, the panelists, and of course, Dr. Soni Agarwal for inviting me over here. Today's topic is a very important topic, high on the world agenda for sustainability of our future generation. And I think there is no other choice but to achieve the targets. There is no other choice. But I have heard the valuable suggestions and valuable points given by the earlier speakers, like Dr. Tapos Kumar Gupta, Dr. Snehasi Samadhar, and Saket, all have covered most important relevant points on today's agenda. But I will try to explain from my perception. I like to see the topic from two sides. The first thing is the subject is a big one and implementation part is very difficult. That is to be accepted first of all. So the implementation will be carried out in the economy worldwide in two stages, at the macro level and also at the micro level. So I will first of all try to present what we are trying at the micro level with jute perspective, and then I will move to the macro level. Anywhere, if you try to, when we are targeting to achieve and reduce carbon footprints, it is very important to realize of involvement of all in the system. And this can only be achieved through management systems. As you have already heard, that our jute mill, Birla Jute Mills, is 100 years old, and it is within jute division of Birla Corporation Limited. The potentiality of jute industry can be assessed by a single line. I'll tell you, it is running without a single advertisement, even in the modern times. So you can understand the potentiality. 90% of the production from jute industry in India is bought by the government of India, and rest 10% is exported. In Bangladesh, the situation is something different. They are contributing 75% of the worldwide exports. But it is unfortunate that the potentiality of jute has not been correctly assessed. Now, I'll try to explain how our jute products are actually contributing towards reducing carbon footprint. The manufacturers of jute are all environment friendly, reusable, biodegradable, and therefore ecological. They never leave carbon footprints, leave aside some traces, if any. Now, the single-use plastics are being used instead of jute for packaging purpose. And it has been used rampantly over years as a substitute of jute, and with the result that it has added to hazards in the society, it has increased carbon footprints, and it is a threat to the total nature, flora, fauna, human mankind. And it is a threat to our human society. And what is happening? We look to the face value that plastic is less priced than jute. But the social cost that comes afterwards is very high, and for which the common person is suffering. The society is suffering. That has not been accounted. That has no accounts, and that has not been recorded even. And that is causing a menace to not only to this country, worldwide. And it is also destroying the flora and fauna. Another point of regret is that jute plant itself is the cultivation of raw jute and production of jute both have decreased over years, over the last 2 decades. This is a point of regret. And what is happening if the raw jute cultivation decreases, the cultivable area also decreases, then we will be losing the carbon sink. It is a carbon sink to us. Why I say? Because the jute plant releases more oxygen and absorbs more carbon dioxide. And it is better than many other plants in this process. This is also to be noticed. Another point, despite various odds, the jute industry is functioning and giving direct employment to 3.7 lakh people. It is indirectly employing more than 6.5 lakh people, and 40 lakh people are supported from the jute crop cultivation. And the jute plant has got a great food value, which is time tested. It brings fertility to the soil if rotationally cultivated. So jute is a very environment friendly item from raw jute to the manufactured jute. Over few decades, it has been observed. I have been working in the jute industry for many years. I have seen a lot of changes have occurred in the jute industry. The basic production of jute is different kinds of sacking and Hessian qualities, and which are for the domestic market as well as for the foreign markets. Birla jute is one best example, I tell you, for adapting itself to the need of the hour by way of compliance, modernization, inclusion of workers in the process and in different management systems, which were working towards the national agenda for reducing carbon footprints, and simultaneously ensuring sustainable growth of the jute division of Birla Corporation Limited. Birla Jute exports about 30% of its products. The mill's best qualities of both Hessian and sacking are catering to the demands of the customers within the country, outside the country, worldwide. Geotextiles is manufactured, which helps soil conservation and also used for building of roads infrastructures, and particularly useful for road building in the rural areas. Birla Jute is manufacturing shopping bags and other value-added items, and the production system is increasing over there. Birla Jute manufactures food-grade bags for packaging, which are hydrocarbon-free and in demand both inside the country, outside the country, in the export market. Other value-added items are all on the anvil. Now, from the micro point, even though we are producing an eco-friendly product which does not leave carbon footprint, still there is involvement of material, machines, men, and of course, large amount of energy. So obviously, we cannot deny that carbon emission and greenhouse gases are not taking place in jute industry. So what we are doing, BJM management by policy is committed to quality management system, environment management system, occupational health safety management system. And through these systems, we are involving each and every worker of our plant. We are employing daily at least 3,500 workers are working on daily basis in the 3 shifts, and this factory is running for 7 days. So without their involvement, we cannot reduce the carbon footprint. So that is being done. Workers are involved. Specifically, 2 areas have been worked on by the Birla management in order to reduce carbon footprints and mitigating GHG. That is improvement on energy efficiency, recycling of all waste material, product waste and water waste from ETP. We are not throwing any waste outside our factory. Even the caddies goes to our boiler as a fuel, which is Chima-based boiler, which has replaced the earlier FBC boiler, which was consuming coal. So after another point is that how we are trying to utilize the renewable, sustainable energy for our systems. We are using biogas in our recreation center as a fuel for cooking our foods. We are going to have solar power installed for lighting of the factory. Over the last 3 years, BJM management in collaboration with the Pollution Control Board West Bengal has planted thousands of trees, at least more than 3,000, and which is definitely working as a carbon sink. Apart from that, our surroundings have full greenery. We have full greenery all around. The fluorescent tubes, mercury vapor lamps, and sodium vapor lamps are mostly being replaced with LED lamps in our residential places as well as in our streets. The air conditioners are being replaced by, as Dr. Snehashish was telling, with predetermined temperature control AC. So this is what is from the micro level we are trying to. I will conclude at the micro level by saying that you buy jute products, be environment friendly and save millions. At the macro level now, macro level, I'll first inform you from the statesman, 17th August 2023. The Union Cabinet also approved the PM E-Bus Seva scheme for augmenting city bus operations across the country. So our PM has got this reducing carbon footprint high on agenda, and our nation, it is our national target to achieve the commitment at the French Accord in 2050. Basically, I would like to cite a success that has taken place by way of water security in the state of Gujarat.
Sir,
Previously, so
already time.
okay, madam. If you like, I will.
Yeah, we'll be very happy to call you for a one-to-one discussion.
Macro level also, my point, I end here with the one message that at macro level or micro level, involvement of people is very important. That I like to stress. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and lot to learn. That I understand now that we have to call each and every panelist in our college, because it is not enough. That 10 minutes are not sufficient or enough. We can say are very less, and there is a lot to share by them. So this is just the glimpse that we all have seen, and we will be inviting each one of you to our campus and give us the insights or maybe the way ahead. Even IMI Kolkata is also going to have a green audit as a educational institute. So our director, Professor Mahua Banerjee, is so much so energetic and so much so hopeful that we are going to achieve all the initiatives, be it waste minimization or reduction of carbon footprints, whatever the ways we can do. So all the efforts are being taken. And here we all having the experts around who had tested, who had initiated, and we are going to learn a lot from you. So now I would like to invite Mr. Murlidhar from L&T, who had taken lots of initiatives as well as handled the projects that are, be it construction, metal, mineral, and L&T is the company which is already known for its initiative towards the sustainability. If we can learn from you, so because from a long time we are talking about this, and each one of us is important, and the way we are taking the efforts, construction is important, manufacturing is important, service is important, and everyone is reducing carbon footprints. As Mr. Devashish has rightly mentioned, although we say in jute, if it is not producing, it does not mean that we are not producing. It is when we are in the production, some materials or maybe the energy, we are producing the carbon footprint. So some way or the other, we are in the same race. So over to you, Mr. Murlidhar, if we can hear from you the insights.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Uh, Actually, at the outset, I just want to convey my regards to the IMI Kolkata as well as to you for firstly giving me this opportunity to share this same stage with the esteemed panelists. So, thank you for this opportunity. And on a humor side, like what I lack in this experience in numbers, I think the same can be matched by the carbon footprint of our building and construction sector. If you see the issue as earlier mentioned by the panelists as well as you, now it's like the climate change is not at all a future problem. It is now, it is here, and we are already facing the consequences as well. And recently, this even the NASA, they have said that this July, it is the hottest month ever recorded. So it is not at all the future problem. We are currently the facing these issues at present. And let me play this devil's advocate role, because all the countries are working tirelessly, and the companies who are listed companies, everyone is working towards the major goals that we can say as the Paris Agreement. As per the Paris Agreement, that we have agreed to keep the temperature below this 1.5 degrees centigrade. But the thing is, the planet is already warmed by nearly 1.3 degrees centigrade. We at the edge, we can say. And the reports from the UNEP, if you see the recent report, it's titled as the Building the Gap. Actually, if you see there, we are not at all in direction of reaching this targets what we are whatever we are agreed to it. And if we go by the similar way that we are going about this carbon emissions reduction, we will be 2 will be reaching 2.8 degrees centigrade over the 21st century itself. And there are reports available from companies like Morgan Stanley, where they are saying that all the listed companies who are there, only 22% of companies are aligned to this 1.5 degrees centigrade range that we are agreed to it as per the Paris Agreement. So the situation is dire, but there is still time where each of us can contribute and limit the temperature or the goals that we have kept for minimizing the environmental impact. So coming to the industry that I represent, buildings and the construction sector, here we have a huge role to play, because we are the largest in a way emitters of this carbon emissions. If you see, we are currently as 39% of carbon emissions are coming from the building and construction sector. So, and if you see the case of India, it's overall 1/3 of the emissions are coming from this building and the construction sector. So We are a fast growing economy, so we need this all this infrastructure. But the grow with the infrastructure growth, we are also going to witness large number of carbon emissions as well. So we have to act, and we have to act immediately. So if you see this, when coming to this building and construction sector, you need to understand what are the type of carbon emissions that are coming from this sector. Usually, you have two types, main categories. You can say those are operative carbon emissions. There is the embedded carbon emissions. So the operational carbon emission that we are talking about is usually during the usage of building, you will be looking at it like whatever the energy that you are using or water consumption that you are doing during the usage of building, you will be witnessing these operational carbon emissions. But there are other emissions, those are called as embedded carbon emissions. There you have to pay uh, uh, your attention must be there in order to reduce the overall emissions from the buildings, because whatever the certifications that are currently being given, like lead and etc., or the green building certificate, GBC certificates, etc., those are mainly focusing on this operational carbon. So whatever the waste you are minimizing, or the energy conservation efforts, or the water conservation efforts that you are doing, you usually those are looked at during the certification process. But the issue with this is there is another carbon emission, that is the embodied carbon emissions, which are hugely neglected, because these are even came during the construction stage itself, like during the material procurement, how these materials were produced and how they are transported, and what type of material that we are bringing into the construction activity. So all these are all combined into this embedded carbon material. So once the building is built, you can't do anything about it. These are all irreversible, and these are not like you will take some initiative, or you will introduce some renewable resource and etc., you will take care of these emissions. No, once the building is built, these are irreversible, and you are not going to do anything about it. So the thing is, if you want to reduce overall carbon emissions from these buildings, you have to have a life cycle approach. There you will go from starting initial stage, like how the materials are being sourced, and how they are being transported, and what type of material, and how it is being used, etc., and how it is going to be disposed of. So all these aspects you need to be taken into consideration to limit the carbon emissions from the buildings and the construction. So, and the thing is, the construction industry is a highly fragmented, and it's a complex one, and there is not a single player cannot do anything. It's a collective effort, and it's starting from architects and the designers to the small contractors you are going to engage, and the design issues are the way that you are going to construct the material, and the way waste is going to dispose of everything. It has its own value, and each stakeholder has to play a role on it. So if you see this construction, if we want to reduce it, the first thing is, as I mentioned, we have to reduce the demand, the amount of material that we are going to use, that is demanding like a material consumption, because we are a industry where there is a huge amount of natural resources are used, and so is energy. So we have to reduce this demand. So architectures or the designers will play a key role in this, like how we are going to reduce the embodied carbon by optimizing this building designs, and the improving this material efficiency, and usage of some reclaimed or the recycled materials, and introducing some low carbon materials, etc. These are all things can be done before the construction itself. So it's in the design stage itself, this architecture can play a significant role. So in that way, we can avoid this embodied carbon emissions. And the other aspect is material decarbonization. So there, when when you think of the construction, the first and thing material that you may think of is cement, concrete, and steel. So the issue is the material, the manufacturing of the material itself. It's a highly carbon intensive. Like for the, if you see cement, the manufacturing of cement itself, it's contribute to 7% of whole world's carbon emissions. And similar to the steel also, it's around 8% of carbon emissions. So the main two ingredients that you need for construction purpose, these are heavily carbon intensive. So the material that you are going to use, it will play a key role in this building and the construction aspect. So we have to think of how we are going to decarbonize these uh, materials. So there are other alternatives, like for the cement now they are currently looking at low carbon cement. For the steel there is a concept of green steel, which doesn't use the coal for heating the mine ore. But it will use the hydrogen, which is usually taken from the water electrolysis. So, and for the low carbon cement, earlier one of our panelists also mentioning usage of fly ash for the making a payment preparation and etc. So that water consumption and the consumption of other materials can be agri material can be reduced. So there are some initiatives that can be taken off for the material decarbonization as well. And there is another issue is with the construction process itself, how we are constructing. It's like majority of time, if you see, there will be a lot of waste from the construction because of the construction methodology adapted was poor, or the excess material was procured which was not needed and it became a waste. So we have to think of ways in which we can do like some modular construction where you can avoid waste and easily transport it for the construction purpose. And some other design strategies, like you can use now technology also. So like you have building information modeling, and say there are other some design softwares also where you can calculate this embedded carbon emissions as well. So at the design stage itself, you will get to know like which type of material you have to, it's better to use, and where possibility of waste is there, and how much material optimization, everything it can be done through the technology itself. So the construction process and the design also, we can with using the technology can be optimized. And there are another area is the wastage. If you think of it, the CND waste capacity of our in India, its recycling is very low. Very less amount of construction and demolition waste is getting recycled, but it has huge potential. Each and every part of this CND waste can be either reused, or it can be recycled for the further uses. And if you go through Indian Road Congress also, they have provided one some guidelines on how for road construction they have given some guidelines, like whatever the waste, several waste material like fly ash, you have CND waste, industrial waste, slag, plastic waste, rubber waste, everything application of these, all these waste can be put into the road construction activities. So there is already guidelines available for how we can use this waste material as well, or reuse and recycling capabilities potential for this number of types of waste. And the other area where construction, it's like a water intensive as well. Now, vast quantities of water gets used for the construction purpose as well. So we need to think of ways we can conserve the water, be it reusing or completely recycling the wastewater as well. So these are some of the areas where if we focus and collectively and put our efforts in, the carbon footprint of this building and the infrastructure construction in the sector can be optimized, and the overall goals can be achieved. And at the end, I just want to say that if you see, even our neighboring country and other countries, some around some 8 countries, they are announced as net zero, and they announced their net zero emissions. Even though the countries are smaller in size and are not that much industrialized, but it is still hope that if we put sustainability and environment at forefront, these can be achieved, and overall our earth can be saved. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Means I really like the way you had accepted the truth at the outset that we means representing the company in the construction is producing or having the share of 7% by of the cement, and steel is having 8%. So means there is no denial. We all accept it. However, we are going ahead taking the efforts how we can reduce following the guidelines. And I like the way all the panelists are saying we are just not stopping ourselves just following the guidelines given the government as a compliance. Rather, we have to do something more towards achieving the goals. We were having another panelist, Mr. Rajneesh, from the consulting background, and he is the founder director of MB Risk. But however, somehow because of some technical issues, seems like I'm not able to see him here. Although he was one of the panelists who would like to talk on the scope 4. When I contacted him, then he mentioned me one post, one email is causing how much of carbon footprint. So if we are including everything all together, means advertising agencies and also everyone will come into the trap. However, I think we will listen to him some other time. And already we are 12:30, so not already at the time is not much with us, but still lots of guests have also joined. So if I can ask any of the guests if they are having the question to a panelist or to the panel, so more than welcome. Any guest, if they are having any question from the panelist, would like to come and have a question. Okay, so I now request our students, because they were quite enthusiastic and they were having lots of questions, and they were saying, ma'am, time is less, will be allowed to do the same. Then I said, let's see how much we can manage. Otherwise, definitely in a one-to-one discussion, it will be more. So Ria and Simran, I'm sure you are there. And if you can facilitate some of the questions quickly, we can take those.
Soni ma'am, if I may,
Yeah,
just have a
please.
query, small
Please,
query.
please. Yeah, Kishle.
Yeah,
Dr. Kishle is faculty here at IMI Kolkata in marketing. Please go ahead.
Okay. Firstly, thank you to all the panelists for such a interesting insight, actually, because we keep talking about sustainability. And so the only question that I have is, I know the government is doing enough, and there are obviously the world norms as well, the SDG goals and as well. But since I am into marketing and I try to understand sustainability from the perspective of a normal customer, right? So there is a stereotype mindset or a notion that is especially existing in the Indian society that sustainable practices are expensive. So if, let's say, I have to give up plastic and buy a jute bag or maybe a paper bag, it is going to be very costly affair if done for a long duration of time. So then with the population of, let's say, 140 crore plus people, if we are trying to make at least the majority very conscious about environmental and sustainable practices, how we are going to achieve that if we don't break that myth or that barrier? I want your views on this particular lines, probably.
And Dr. Kishle, are you asking any one panelist to start with the insight?
Ma'am, anybody can probably. I would like Dr. Gopalapalli, probably Sir Gopalapalli, to answer this actually.
Mr. Muralidhar Gopalapalli from LNT.
Yeah, LNT. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually this is a challenge that we are also facing here. Even as a represent EHS department, like it's like environment and health and safety. Even if you go to the project site, and there are some safety practices that we tell workmen to follow, like even they are hesitant to do these things. even their life at stake, there's sometimes they will hesitate because there it is some they are feeling uncomfortable, etc. The thing that we are talking about, the whatever the sustainable alternative that we are suggesting, or the ways that we have to take to achieve or to ensure this greener future that we are talking about, there will be hesitancy, and these are all cost intensive as well. But the governments usually what they are taking, they are they are providing, they are making these policies where companies as well can benefit. And if we interest in the companies, with the currently we are going in the trend of ESG. So if you environmental social governance, and the companies also getting benefited, so the corporates are being judged upon the performance of this environmental safety as well. So how we are going to use them, how the material being consumed, and how the waste is getting disposed of, and whether we are reusing or recycling it. So everything it is getting monitored. And if you see the SEBI, they have recently they have mandated, and the companies have enlisted companies have to report their ESG performance in terms of BRS reporting. It is currently being mandated. So the companies, there is no choice as of now. We have to follow. And earlier it's like a choice. Now it is not like that. It's now it is being mandated, either by the society or from the market point of view or from the governments as well. So the issue is we have to convince, and we must have to do it. There is no other choice.
Thank you
Let
so
me
much.
just step in. I just have one or two
Yeah,
points to make.
yes, sir.
Gopal, are you done? Sorry, Murali, are you done?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Hi. So I just have a couple of points to make. Given my past experience, in my earlier company, there was a product called viscose, VSF. This viscose is used is like cotton. So what we had done was we had done something called there's something called LIVA, LIVA. So what you do is you start branding of viscose in, it becomes a little expensive, but you start doing it. And if you ask me globally, the textile, whether you are talking about Marks and Spencer, you're talking about Zara, everyone, they are looking at a sustainable textile. Okay, so you can price it. I think that's a misnomer, point number one.
Mhm.
Point number two is how do you do it? See, it's if you think about it, a Starbucks sells a coffee for $350, right? People still going to a Starbucks and they buy a coffee, right? If tomorrow they say you can get your own Starbucks coffee and the price of coffee will be $10 lower, many people are going to do it because you're going to Starbucks. That's the fun of it,
Mhm.
right? So how you have to take this initiative depends on the company. How how do you think about it? That's number one. In aluminum, it's happening big time. I can give you an example. In last 12 years, there's a company called Novelist from a erstwhile, employer. Over there in US, people can sell the recycled cans. If you're having a beer or a Coke or a Pepsi, what you can do is you can again sell back the can to a can collector. So you get some 1 or 2 cents. So so there are ways of doing it. It's not about we have to look in a silo. So there are ways how do you do it. Now I think so from the power sector, Dr. Gupta is there. Now I'm from Bombay, so I'm paying 50 paisa higher to Adani's for buying power, right? Because what they're saying is that 50% or 80% of the power will be from the renewable. So it's not that people they don't want to pay, it's how you make them pay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your insights.
Yeah, here seems, Kishila, your answer is your role
Yeah,
becomes very important. How you
yeah,
make or how you brand yourself,
exactly.
and how you send the message means that people are after you in terms of
Mhm.
buying your products.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sure.
Thank you so much for
Thank you
all
so
the
much, sir.
insight to Mr. Saket and Mr. Murli. Ria and Simran, any question from the student side? If there is any, please go ahead quickly. Although we do not have much time left, we can have one or two questions.
Hello.
Yeah.
Good morning, ma'am. My
So can you please check your mic? Seems you are muted. Riya and Simran, are you there?
Good afternoon, ma'am, and each and everyone present in the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, my question is to Dr. Taposh Kumar Gupta.
Mm-hmm.
As we have heard that the ESG framework has already been arisen in this discussion. So, what, according to you, sir, are the career options for someone who wants to take this route as a professional?
Yes, it's a very good question. I think it's a good opportunity have come before us to work for this ESG framework. And as it was a part of the discussion, perhaps Madam Agarwal has already mentioned that the SEBI certificates, the ESG reporting is now mandatory for the companies. And at the same time, not only in the corporate sector, Madam Agarwal was mentioning that IMI is planning to have this audit for their institutions, and which is also a mandatory requirement made by NAC. Only thing, ma'am, for your information, that in the recent notification, that whatever you will do in educational institutions, and for educational institutions for energy management, for waste management, water management, already a standard notification guidelines issued from our Pollution Control Board and Department of Environment, and as well as Ministry of Environment. You please follow that thing. And finally, for NAC certification, as per the recent notification, the agency who will be finally audit this your activity, they will have to be accredited by as per the ISO 17020. Kindly look into that. And as specific to the answer to of that specific question, I think this is a good opportunity, particularly for the students who will be passing out shortly. That this is a good job opportunity available, not only in our state, in all across the country, everywhere. And here I am taking one opportunity to the question raised by one of the professor of the IMI, that so far as marketing point of view, about 10 to 15 days back, I have visited one of the best city in the country. Perhaps you have heard the name of Ambikapur. Ambikapur, they are the second in cleanliness in they are standing in last 5 years. It's really, when I visited that city, and one of what their material recovery facility or waste management facility I have visited, there the Ambikapur Municipal Corporation, they have made a provision that any people, not only the waste collector, anyone, if he can bring 500 gram of plastics, they will be getting one breakfast coupon. And if they bring, they get to manage 1 kg of plastic, they will get a lunch coupon. And they can go just opposite to that MRF center, which is about 300 meters in their central bus stand. They will be enjoying their lunch or breakfast. So this is the way I think we can motivate the general public so that things can be done. And finally, for our own survival, for our future requirement, we will have to do. There is no other alternative. This is my observation. And yes, of course, there is a good job opportunity in near future for working in the environmental management field. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Dr. Tapash Gupta, for the elaborate answer. And yeah, there are lots of career opportunities are available in the ESG area. So definitely we'll talk more, we'll listen more, we'll learn more from our panelists when we will be calling them in our campus. Then we will not be having this kind of a time limit as we are facing today. Riya and Simran, if we can take one last question only, if there is any. Otherwise, we are already cross the time. If there is any, quickly we can have one more question.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, very much audible. Go ahead.
Very good afternoon to everyone present in the panel. So I'm Snehargo Bhattacharya and I have a question for Mr. Saket. Shall I?
Yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead.
So my question is, so what's your opinion about the concept of volunteer carbon engineering, and if you could elaborate on the India's current position about the progress in the same field.
You mean volunteer carbon trading, right?
Volunteer carbon trading, yes.
Okay. Okay. So means volunteer carbon trading and how India means or how we can see or how we can learn from it, and how maybe private players can come up, all these things when we say carbon offsetting and all in that context only, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Saket, you are on mute.
Yeah, hi. So my point of view is that, uh, actually carbon trading was introduced in India some 15, 20 years back in 2004, 2005. And at that point of time, it didn't pick up. But today we are seeing, things picking up because of the urgency which is happening globally. But globally, the market has picked up, and you know, companies are buying and selling, carbon credits. As far as India is concerned, I think so. We are still at the nascent stage. The market, the discovery has to happen. So let me just touch upon one of the concepts. Let's say one of the companies are there, and one of the companies there, and they have to buy carbon credits for offsetting needs, or So my perspective is the carbon pricing is not very, it's not very liquid today. Then that's a big problem. There has to be a market for that. Like in Europe, there are already companies which are like in the power sector. Companies are buying and selling power, some of these credits. And what really happens is it depends on which industry you are a part of, whether you are a part of metals and mining, or you're a part of cement. So the pricing varies according to that, and it will become a little more, maybe in next 2 years it will become little more, you know today it's fluid. In next 2 years, I think it will become more clear in terms of what companies, how they'll be positioned, on the trading part of it.
Yeah, thank you, Saket, for sharing the insight. I think the more the norms are going to be stricter, and maybe more and more private players will come when they see, yes, the ease potential support. Definitely. Thank you all. And I know lots of questions are there from the students, or maybe from the audience as well. But already it is 12:47, and each one of you, the panelists, have given us a lot of time, lots of insights, and we had learned a lot. There is no denial that carbon footprints we are generating, even individual level we are generating via power sector, but we are saying, please rationalize your usage. We are from jute sector, we are saying, please see what you would like to lose if you are going to use single plastic. We hear from pollution control boards that Dr. Tapash had mentioned, like how come we are going ahead, and companies and cities and initiatives are everywhere, we can see. So we all are aware, but here we all have to join hands, and there you young persons, students, have a bigger role to play. So with this, I would like to stop here and will give the mic to our students, Ria and Simran. Can you please conclude the session? And thank you so much to all the panelists to be here, to share your insights. And it was a huge learning to all of us.
Thank you.
To Simran and Ria.
Yeah. If there were no time constraint, it would have been wonderful for this to go on and on. It was indeed a very enlightening and thought provoking session. And we would like to thank all of you for taking the time out. On behalf of Humanhour and IMI Kolkata, we would like to thank all our guests for being present on this momentous occasion. We are sure the audience has gained a lot of awareness on the topic of reducing carbon footprints and how organizations practice the same on such a large scale. Also, we would like to thank Sony ma'am, Program Office, Shontu sir, Dinesh sir, Nishant sir, and Manas sir for helping us conducting this session so smoothly, and Team Smart as well for their coverage. Lastly, we would like to thank all our students for being such a patient audience and making this discussion a success. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ria and Simran, for supporting, conducting, initiating with this idea Thank you, IMI, our director, Professor Mahua Banerjee, who had suggested that we should have this panel discussion, and going forward, much more learning, much more initiative from each one of us that we are going to have. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank